was this big parking garage that dominated this entire block. In the 80s, they took the parking underground. They built Leventhal Park. Right in front of the old State House, that's where the Boston Massacre took place. The first violence of the Revolutionary period, March the 5th, 1770. There was a group. Coast is clear. You ready? Okay, do the thing with the hands. That's for the own deal. So I think there. Okay. 1919. I'll look at the flag. You ready? Home trivia. One day in January. Everybody lean forward. Okay, lean forward. I think it helps a little bit. Take positive thoughts, okay? I think we can. The little duck boat they could. Let's see if we can, Steve. Okay.
Let's do the Boston Duck Tour.
That's like the beauty of Mango.
You go ahead of me. 8A and 8B. Take a step by the window.
Yes, we go into the water.
We're going under the water. No.
Float like a little. Why would you stop that?
Leave me hanging.
Water, but you
Oh, thank you.
Seats are small.
We're significant. Why don't you take a duck tour? So I took the duck tour. They were very nice. Everybody was very nice. They said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Quack-tastic. They said, oh, we love to quack. That's what we do. We go around the city, we quack at people. So we're going to quack, right? That's what you do on a duck. It's the culture. When in Rome, there was the Romans. Well, this was Boston Harbor originally. The harbor used to be twice as big as it is now. Twice as large. Landfill's not sexy, but it's very important to Boston's history. The original city was this little peninsula. The Shawmut Peninsula was a tiny little thing, 600 acres, 1 square mile. Wasn't big enough, so they filled it in. They filled in the land, they filled in the river, they filled in the harbor. Doubled the size of the city in the 1800s. When they built the customs house, back in 1840, that was on the water when they built it. That was the water line. Ships would sail right up to the customs house. Unload. That was all Boston Harbor. Can you imagine? They filled it all in. The old State House was called the Town House when the British were here. Built in 1713. It was the seat of the British government. The lion up on top is for England, the unicorn's for Scotland. Right in front of the old State House, that's where the Boston Massacre took place. The first violence of the Revolutionary period, March the 5th, 1770. There was a group down on King Street, and they were kind of harassing the British soldiers. They were throwing snowballs after them. It was like a snowball fight at first. It was March, They were throwing this. It's the 1800s, steaming away. It's still steaming away. Except we throw all the tea in the harbor, so now it's a Starbucks instead. The City Hall, right further away down there, City Hall, Boston City Hall. Part of the graveyard, that's the original graveyard in the city, King's Chapel Burial Ground. He built a wooden church around 1680. The stone church was built around 1750. The Parker House, the oldest hotel in the United States. Ho Chi Minh worked in the kitchen there. Malcolm X was a busboy. One heck of a human reason. They would have thought that was frivolous. I can imagine what they would have said about duck tours. I think we'd all be in the stocks, probably. It was the cow pasture. You could bring your cow here if your cow was hungry. But there was a 70 cow limit, so if your cow was number 71, you had to wait in line with a hungry cow. No fun. So we're in the Back Bay. This neighborhood's called the Back Bay. Kind of a nice neighborhood, Big hotels and nice restaurants. shopping. But the Back Bay used to be called the Back Bay. But it was the bay. It was the bay in back of the city. We had the harbor in the front, we had the bay in the back. But it's like an art museum in there, it really is. I think it's the most handsome public building in the city. They've got works by John Singer Sargent. He did a whole bunch of murals in there. The sculptures in front are by St. Gaudens, Auguste St. Gaudens, the famous sculptor from New Hampshire. You see the little head over the door right there? That's Minerva. That's the Roman goddess of wisdom. That was by Felix Bertoldi. He did the Statue of Liberty. He did some of the decorations at the Boston Public Library. This is Old South Church on the left. New Old South. Old South is down on Washington Street. That's where they had the meeting for the Tea Party in 1773. When they built the Back Bay, you know, when they filled all of this in, a lot of the churches from the old part of the city moved to the new part of the city, and they sort of tried to outdo each other who could have the biggest, fanciest church. So we've got some nice churches in Boston. You see the tower? That was the Leaning Tower of Boston. Because when they built it, it started to sink into the ground. They were afraid it was going to tip over. So they took it down and put it back up again. But it's 16 feet shorter than it was originally. 16 feet shorter. And Arlington Street Church on the left, when they built the Back Bay, you know, when they filled in this whole neighborhood, this was the first major building they constructed. The Arlington Street Church, 1859. Beautiful stained glass windows. They have 16 Tiffany windows. More than any other church in Boston. And they were by Tiffany himself. He came in from New York to do them. Here's the swan boats on the left. It's a great tradition. The swan boats. They started back in the 1870s, and they were started by a man named Robert Paget. Originally, Mr. Paget had rowboats on the public garden. You know, you could rent a rowboat. But then he went to see the opera Lohengrin by Wagner. And at the end of Lohengrin, the hero is borne off on a boat pulled by swans. So he loved the idea of swans pulling the boat. This is Beacon Hill. Beautiful architecture, Federalist architecture, a lot like Georgian back in England, but a little fancier. Charles Bulfinch was the big architect. He designed dozens of buildings in Boston right after the Revolution. Somerset Club on the left, kind of hoity-toity, very exclusive. They had a fire at the Somerset Club, 1945. Firemen went to the front door to put out the fire. The butlers came to the door. They said, "I'm sorry, you're not members. Please use the servants' entrance." A little bit too exclusive, I think. Here's the State House, Massachusetts State House, designed by Charles Bulfinch. John F. Kennedy on the left, our 35th president. One of 4 U.S. presidents born in Massachusetts. State House was John Hancock's estate. He was a very wealthy merchant, very successful. When he died, the state bought his property, and they had Bulfinch put up the State House. Cornerstone was laid in 1795 by Paul Revere and Sam Adams. They laid the cornerstone of the State House. It's a monument to the American Revolution. That's where the beacon was. There was a lookout on top of the hill. You know, we'd keep an eye on the harbor, make sure nobody was sneaking in or anything. If there was a problem, they would light the beacon on fire. Hence the name Beacon Hill. This neighborhood on the left, this used to be the West End. Well, it still is the West End. It's just different. You know, it's like, it used to be all little tenement houses like this one, little 3- and 4-story tenements, you know. 15,000 people lived in the West End, so there were dozens and dozens of these tenements for this whole neighborhood. Different nationalities, different religions. They said you could walk through the West End, you would hear a different language every half block. Museum of Science on the left, that was built in the 1950s. It's on top of the old Charles River Dam, which is right below us here. That was built in 1910. The dam was built in 1910. We're in Cambridge now. This is North Point Park. This used to be an old rail yard 15, 16 years ago. It was old factory buildings and warehouses. Now it's very modern. Big piece of the Berlin Wall right over here on the left. One of the largest pieces of the Berlin Wall on public view anywhere in the United States, right here in Cambridge. But we've got a chunk of the wall because the two buildings on the corner here, right? The one on the left, the one on the right down there, they're part of an organization that's called EF, Education First. And they were started by a man named Bertil Hult. He was from Sweden. When he turned 50, all of his employees got together. They bought him a piece of the Berlin Wall for his 50th birthday. We let you win. Pretty nice gift, though. Better than a gift card at Olive Garden, you know. Coast is clear. You ready? Okay, do the thing with the hands. That's the ambiance, I think, there. Okay. All right, welcome to the Charles River, everybody. Have a nice afternoon. So this is where the river meets the sea. It's where the Charles River flows into Boston Harbor. The harbor's behind us, right over there. On the other side of the bridge is the dam. On the other side of the dam is the harbor. On the other side of the harbor is Ireland. Well, East Boston. Anybody from Ireland? Ah, there we go. January 1919, over in the north end over there, not too far from where the teeny garden is, you know, right down the street on Commercial Street. There used to be this big metal tank right on the water, this big old rickety thing, 50 feet high, about 80 feet across. It held molasses from the West Indies, 2.5 million gallons of molasses. And one day in January 1919, oh, let's give them a quack. You ready? Home trivia! One day in January 1919, they filled up the tank, right? They filled the tank up to the top. It burst. It exploded. Sent a wave of molasses like 25 feet high, 30 miles an hour into the north end of Boston. The Great Molasses Flood killed 21 people. 21 people killed, 150 people injured, millions of dollars of damage, as you can imagine. It wiped out everything in its wake. One guy woke up, he'd been asleep when it happened, right? He woke up, he was floating down the street on his mattress. And there was a hand coming up, so he pulled the person in. It was his sister. He saved her. He barely recognized her, but he saved her. Boston's on the left, Cambridge is on the right. Cambridge is a separate city, of course. It has about 120,000 people, so it's the fourth largest city in Massachusetts. The river's about 40 feet deep here. It's the deepest part of the river. It's a pretty big river in Boston, the Charles. You know, it used to be much bigger. You think about how wide it used to be on both sides. Another mile wide at least. Even more than that, really. But it's still pretty nice. Once you get out of Boston, it's not a very big river, though. Who wants to drive? You want to drive? Are you sure? You want to drive? Yeah, come on out. Sure. Somebody's gonna break the ice here. Where are you from, sir? Oh, Nebraska. Have a seat. Yeah, pretty nice. I love that album. But anyway. Hey, hi, sir. Where are you from? North Carolina. Okay. Pretty state, North Carolina. Yeah, the park by the river is called the Esplanade. It's called the Esplanade. That's when we have the big 4th of July party with the Boston Pops. Oh, here's the hoverboard guy. The concert started back in 1929. It was started by Arthur Fiedler, who was the conductor of the Pops for about 50 years. They've had them every year except 2020. Pandemic. They didn't do it in 2020. They weren't going to bring together 300,000 people in a controlled space in July of 2020. Yeah, the bridge is the Longfellow Bridge. That was built around 1906. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the great poet, he lived over in Cambridge. He was a professor at Harvard. He would walk over the old West Bridge that used to be here, the West Boston Bridge, take long walks into Boston, to Cambridge, to go see his friends. So when they built the new bridge, they named it the Longfellow. Kind of a dramatic motif. The Vikings never came to Boston, but when the bridge was being built in the early 20th century, there were a couple of professors at Harvard who were convinced that the Vikings had explored the Charles River. No evidence of it, but we got a couple of nice Viking ships out of it anyway. Nice view straight ahead, mostly the back bay. Alright, sir, good job. Yeah, he died. He was only 30 years old when he died, John Harvard. Very young. Even for the times, that was very young. But in his will, he had left half of his money to the college. Pretty good request. You remember, he had some money. So it was about $100,000 by today's money. That was a pretty good request. He left them half of his money and all of his books. Mrs. Harvard got the rest. They didn't have any kids. And they were so happy that he went to college after. They named it Harvard College. So we lost the battle, but somehow we won the war. Which I think surprised a lot of people at the time. Everybody lean forward. Okay, lean forward. I think it helps a little bit. Okay, think positive thoughts, okay? I think we can. I think we can. The little duck boat that could. Let's hear for Captain Steve. Okay. Let's give the captain a big home trivia. Alright, well done. Faneuil Hall, the cradle of liberty. That's where the Sons of Liberty planned the revolution here in Boston at Faneuil Hall. Quincy Market is right behind Faneuil Hall. Quincy Market started in 1826 by Mayor Josiah Quincy. You know, there was this big parking garage that dominated this entire block. In the 80s, they put the parking underground. They built Leventhal Park. Named after Norman Leventhal. He was a developer here in Boston. He was a developer, but he had a great respect for the history of the city. And the Leventhal Map Center at the Boston Public Library is named after the late Mr. Leventhal. Well, this is Milk Street. Ben Franklin was born on Milk Street, the great patriot Ben Franklin. We don't think of him as Boston usually. But he was born in Boston in 1706. He left when he was only 16. Didn't hang around too long. I hope you want to go back and explore some of the things you saw today with Professor Von Trivia. All right, let's hear for Captain Steve. He did a great job, I think, getting us around the city. If you'd like to leave a gratuity for a job well done, but you don't want to use cash, we are able to take Venmo.
Like oh, they come in different, all different flavors, different chocolate. But I don't know very much.
Well, thank you so much. Our pleasure. Very good.
Thank you. And our friend gave us some.
Fun, huh? Very informative.
That was our only schedule for the day. It's 2:50, so how long was that? A little over an hour. Phew. All right.
We'll find someplace to eat. So we'll do the duck boat tour, which was, I thought it was a very fun ride. You know, it's very informative. You know, if you get a good tour guide, our tour guide really knew a lot, had a lot of funny stories, was engaging, told us a lot about the history. I mean, I thought that was more interesting than a walking tour. Like if you're going to do a walking tour.
Well, we haven't done a walking tour, so I don't know. But the walking tour is hard because you get like a big group of people, and it's hard to stay within your group, right? That's what I've noticed. Like when people are walking around, it's kind of hard to stay in your group. It's just easier.
Yeah.
If I was coming to Boston, I would definitely recommend doing one of those tours. It's nicer and it gets you off your feet for a little while because it's a lot of walking anyway.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you can go from water or from the road to the water.
Yeah, especially
like that's definitely a unique tour.
You got kids, that's going to be a blast.
Yeah, it was cool. That was cool going on the water. Yeah. And just driving into the water, like that's like it's so weird feeling.
It's really tight though. I mean, if you're
That's true. It was tight seats, huh?
If you're a plus-sized person, I don't know. We can barely fit the seats together.
Yeah, or tall. Like we were tall. We could barely. Our knees were like just jammed into the seat in front of us.
Yeah.
But
and it's rough because it's a military vehicle.
Yeah.
They're all military vehicles, and military does not care about comfort.
But still, it's still better getting off your feet, right? Like it's still better. I liked it. I thought I would recommend if anyone comes to Boston to do it, even though it's like a touristy kind of thing.
As long as it's good weather.
Yeah, good weather. I wouldn't do it when it was, when they close the flaps. You got to do it when the weather's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
What did you give it?
I would give it an 8. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10?
Because, I mean, it wasn't like super comfortable. It wasn't like a nice little trolley or anything. It was just like uncomfortable, but you were sitting. But the tour itself was fun. Yeah. And the weather was good for us, so.
Bumpy, you get to see a lot of the city while you're driving to go to the river.
You're like kind of open. It's kind of fun.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I liked it.
I enjoyed it.
Better seats, better cushions would have been better.
Yeah, but that's why it loses some cookies.
Yeah.
Because that was a little uncomfortable. But you weren't walking all over Boston, which can make your feet get tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's an uncomfortable boat ride.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything they can do to change that.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was built.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to drive on them all
if they
day
had like
long.
a commercial, somebody in the commercial industry design one.
Oh yeah, that wasn't military.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cute. So our guide, he let some of the kids come up when we were in the water and riding around. He'd let the kids come up and steer, and the kids were like, it was cute.
It was fun.
Yeah, they enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'd say an 8's good.
Yeah, highly recommend. Yep. All right, until the next treat.